Well, despite Apple's underperformance, Fast Money friend Gene Munster is still bullish on the iPhone maker. He's managing partner at Deepwater Asset Management, joins us now. Gene, great to have you with us.
Hi, Melissa.
We're not asking about the performance in Q1, but I'm just wondering, what do you see as the reason to be long this name for, whatever time frame it is? Is it, the anticipation of a meaningful sort of entry into the AI market in some way? What is it?
That's part of it. I think we have a near-term catalyst around December earnings. We have a catalyst, I think, on the 2026 earnings. And last, I think we have just a macro catalyst. There's the catalyst around the Siri release. Then there's a bigger macro catalyst that hasn't been talked a lot about, which is on just a company and what's going on in the AI devices market. And actually, I want to start there because I think it's something that largely gets underappreciated about the Apple story. If we look at what happened with Tesla over the past few years about the car business shifting to a physical AI story, Elon's done a marvelous job of kind of recasting that investment view of just this company that's uniquely positioned to capitalize on physical AI. In the case of Apple, as we have a venture business and a public business, there's a lot going on when it comes to on the devices, the consumer device side around AI. Lots of investments are being made. And ultimately, I think part of the reason is that there's just fundamentally an opportunity for a company to be an AI device company. And that really hasn't happened. We can't point to any devices that are like profoundly AI. But Apple is in a great position to capitalize on that over the next few years. So that's kind of the long term. And then just jumping back more to the near term is Apple, of course, tends to beat their numbers. They guided the December revenue for 10 to 12% growth. The street's at 10.5. They're probably going to do 13. And so you have some upside to numbers at the end of this month. And then, as you mentioned, this whole new Siri, the jury's out. It's going to be probably one of the most entertaining stories in the first half of this year is how the new Siri does when it comes to tech. But that's going to be a pivotal moment in terms of Apple's multiple.
Let's say all those catalysts come to fruition, Gene, the ones that you just rattled off. What happens, though, to the stock story if China is still a problem, whether it be because of geopolitical reasons or just economic reasons? Can there be a strong Apple stock story if China is weak?
When guys talking about that risk, I was getting uncomfortable because I think that speaks to you're talking to somebody who's optimistic about Apple, but that I think is the risk, the pressure point here. The simple answer is that if something goes awry with China, with Taiwan, but let me back up. If something goes awry on the trade side, Cook has navigated that. That's not a concern. But if there is something bigger geopolitically going on, you mentioned Venezuela early and all of that, Apple's going to get pulled down. I'm going to be wrong on this. And ultimately, the reason is that 16% of their revenue and 45% of their products are built in China. That's just going to be a hard narrative to shake. And so that probably is part of why, what my optimistic view is that probably sits in the back of investors' minds as they think about 2026.
Gene, Apple does a great job keeping their suppliers in line in terms of costs. But, we talk about yesterday, I think we led the show with all these memory stocks. I mean, those costs are starting to get a little out of control. Are their margins jeopardized in any way going forward?
Yeah, it could weigh on margins. I would say that, that's going to be one of the big focuses going in here, just as some perspective, is that in 2019, 2020, their gross margins were 38%. They hit record in the September quarter, 36.7%. So we've had this, just a massive increase over the past 9 years. Can the stock, to answer your question, I think that is, there is some risk around what they say on the margin story. The positive side is that typically what we see with this pricing is that eventually it reverts back to lower pricing. Historically, when we've seen some of those increases in pricing within a few quarters, it kind of reverses back. I don't know what that commentary is to Micron and SK Hynix, but as far as Apple, yes, it would be a negative. It's something on my mind going into the quarter, but it doesn't really change how I feel about the stock this year.